Hey everybody, it's Matthew of Mr. Domestic, where I spread joy and positivity through sewing and fabric play. And in this video, I am going to share with you how to make the half square triangle. Ooh, the drama! It's probably the most ubiquitous, well-used shape that I see out there in the quilting world, and it is that way for good reason. You can make so many different patterns and shapes and designs with this. So I am excited to share this with you. I'm going to share 3 different ways that you can prepare half square triangles to make your quilt. All 3 are awesome. I really don't have a preference. It depends on the type of fabric that you have. So if that's what you're here to learn, then before we get into the content, anytime you're enjoying it, make sure to give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Now let's get ready to have some fun. Okay, so the first thing that you're going to do whenever you're making half square triangles is to determine the size of the overall square, or the 2 triangles put together is going to be. For my project, I need 3.5-inch squares. That's including the necessary 1/4-inch seam allowance. So I'm going to show you how to determine it. I used Illustrator for mine, but you can do it with pen and paper also, and a ruler. So 3.5 is right here. 1, 2, right? I don't know if this is long enough. I'm going to estimate here. If it's bigger, that's awesome. If it's smaller, that's not awesome. So, okay, it's not perfect, totally fine. This is the size that I want to show. So now I need to do the seam allowance, and I am going to use 1/4-inch seam allowance here. And then, so I'm going to use this right here to extend. Right here. So this is the size of the triangle that I need. It extends 1/4-inch. And this is also the triangle that I'm going to use all of the measurements on to determine the 3 different ways that you can sew and prepare half square triangles here. So if you want to make it a little bit larger just to make sure, go for it. But this will give you the precise measurements. Now I have my half square triangle here. The first way that I'm going to show you involves using a square to get 2. This seems to be the most common way. So you're going to need 2 squares here. And this triangle will fit here. As you can see, I made the square a little bit larger. But that is where you get the measurement here. And let me just show you what that would be. At a minimum, you would want to make it, it appears to be almost 4 inches. I believe I made these 4-inch squares. So almost 4-inch square to make 2 going this way. And then I will put the 2 squares right sides together. And then you want a ruler that's longer than this, but this is what I have. You're going to draw a diagonal line down the center, and then take this over to your sewing machine. So come with me. Okay, so for the first way, as you can see, I have my 1/4-inch foot. If you've never seen a 1/4-inch foot, just so you can see what it looks like, there's a little edge right here that the fabric will butt up against as you are sewing. Make sure everything's tight. And I'm using standard stitch length. And how I'm going to use this 1/4-inch foot for this is I'm going to use this bar right here as a guideline and follow that along the stitch line, because you are going to stitch 1/4-inch on this side and on this side. If you wanted to use a regular foot, you could, and just use like the guides on the machine or the foot. This is it right here. Stitch up one side. And then stitch up the other side. And if you're doing multiples, this is an opportunity to chain piece. So stitch them all up one side and then stitch up the other side. And I have a video on chain piecing if you want to see it. And this is what it looks like with stitches. Ding, ding, ding. I'm going to take this over to my cutting mat and prep it for you. Okay, so the next one, you're going to be able to get 4 half square triangles of this size out of 2 squares. So the measurement you need right here is this on your triangle that you made. And I already know that this is too short. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.5. The sides of the squares that you use, just so you can see where the triangle is going, is here. So at a minimum, you would want this side to be 5.5. As you can see, I made it a bit larger. I would do that as a best practice because you're going to trim afterwards. But if you're like chinchy on your fabric or want to have like no waste, then make sure to use that measurement. And so for this one, you're going to lay them both right sides together, flush. If you wanted to pin or clip, go for it. Then I'm going to take this over to my sewing machine and sew at 1/4 inch around the perimeter. And that is the second way. So come with me over to Alfonso and I'll show you. So now the second way, I have these two squares. These are 6-inch squares, a little bit larger than I needed. And I am just going to sew up at 1/4 inch around the perimeter. And this one is going to create 4. So it's not critical for it to be a continuous thread. So if you wanted to sew up one all the way and then do the other, you can, but I'm going to pivot just because it's going to save me like 2 seconds. And I'm going all the way around. And you want to make sure that the fabric doesn't shift because that would impact it slightly, but I have way more than enough fabric here, so even if it did, it's fine. Okay, around this side. And then around this side. Boom. Just so that you can see. Boom, stitch. Boom, stitch. Now I'll take this over to my cutting board and ironing mat to show you how to prepare this one. Now, the third way that you can make half square triangles is a strip. Let's say you came into a bunch of strips. The size that I need, a jelly roll wouldn't work, but you could use jelly rolls to create the strips if you wanted to. And this, you're going to need this measurement right here, the height of this triangle going this way. And let me use this since I have it. What is it? What is it? So this right here is 2 3/4 is the height. So the strip would need to at least be 2 3/4 for me. But once again, I made my strips a little bit larger. And I just cut these from fat quarters here. And these are 3 inches just to make sure that I never go under. Once again, you want to make sure that you have more than enough fabric when doing this, because if you have too little, you're not going to be able to use those. So right sides together, I put these on top of each other, raw edges, and then now I'm going to take this over to Alfonso and stitch 1/4 inch here and 1/4 inch here. And ta-da! So come with me over to Alfonso. So this is the third way using the strips, and I'm just going to go up one side and then go up the next using 1/4 inch foot and seam allowance. And I'll fast forward so you don't have to see it in real time. Okay, so now I've stitched up both sides, see? Boom, see the stitches? Boom, there. Now I'm going to take this over to my cutting mat and ironing board just to show you how to prepare this one. So now I brought the first way over here, and it doesn't matter really which way that you use to cut because it's going to be down the center, but I'm going to go ahead and follow the line. I found my larger ruler here, and I'm just going to put this right on the line in between the 2 stitches and cut. Boom. And now I have these both prepared. I'm going to press them after I've done all 3 because you're going to press and prepare all 3 different ways the same way. So now this is the second way to prepare, and this one's going to come out with 4 half square triangles. All I'm going to do is take this and I'm going to cut the 2 diagonals. There's one here. And then I'm going to go ahead and line these two up. I know that there is extra fabric here for myself, so I'm not stressing if it's not perfect. Right here, see how I lined that up here to make sure to get that center height? And then just like that, you have 4 half square triangles. Boom, boom, boom. And now I have this strip. And this one is prepped a little bit differently, and there's going to be more waste. So this is the maximum waste. But I'm going to use this line right here to cut. And larger rulers, let me show you. Larger rulers have a 45-degree line. Let's see if you can see it here. So if I were using this ruler, I would use this 45-degree line here. That's what that other line was here, and then make a cut. But just for visual reasons and to make it easier, I'm using the appropriate size. I'm going to match it here. Cut. So that right there is waste, but if you have enough of those, you can make something fun. And then, just because I'm going to go ahead and line it up here. And I'm going to make sure this is lined up with that point. Just to make sure, I'm going to go a couple millimeters over this way. And then cut here. And then right here, do the same thing. Boom. And another one. One more. And then I'll be able to get one more out of it. So this technique, I got 5 that I needed. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So yay, 3 different ways to prepare half square triangles. And now I'm going to show you how to finalize the preparation regardless of how you created them. Now I have my pressing mat here. I have Max here to press, and I press open with half square triangles because I don't know where the bulk is going to be depending on the layout. And I just want to. So I pressed it open that way. Then I'm going to give it one final press. And I am ironing here. I know the difference between ironing and pressing. Just to make sure that it is as flat can get out. I don't need to show you doing all of them. But I'm going to show you how to prepare this one. Remember the size that I needed. I needed 3.5-inch squares. So I'm going to use this 45-degree diagonal line. And I'm going to trim. My first trim, I like to get as close to here and to here, even if there's excess, because you never know when you're going to cut wrong or if something's going to slip, just to make sure. So this one I know is perfectly squared up right here. And then right here, that line is the 3.5 line. Make sure that that is perfectly on there. And then a light touch to keep it there. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And then what you're supposed to do is like put all these to the side and let it like pile up like this so that you can get a cute Instagram picture. But that is how you prepare your half square triangle. Just because it didn't take long, I'm going to go ahead and prepare one more. Right here, let's do a different one just for some visual zhuzh. Right here. And I'm just going to do it. Let you watch, not talk through it. Boom, shake, shake, shake the room. Just like this, you have half square triangles. And off camera, I'm going to do some more. And then I wanted the final thing that I show you in this video is all of the different variations of layouts that you can do with half square triangles. So now I have all of my half square triangles prepared, and this is the stack that I have the most of. So I'm going to show you different layouts here. No. JK. I'm going to pick this one because there's more contrast for you to see. And there is the chevron that is in the thumbnail here. And this is how you would do it. Like this. Take the triangles to go like that. And I'll have a pattern for that quilt in the link here. Like that. And then this one would go here and then here. And it would continue. Super duper cool. And then as you see from the pillow I'm going to make here, I'm going like this. And then I'm going to go out like that. Bing, bing. So essentially this is a shape that you can just play around with and figure out what you want to do. You could also just have them all going the same way. You could have them varied. You can do it like this. There's so many different options with this one shape. It's probably the most ubiquitous shape in quilting because there's so much you can do. You can even make a heart. Let's see if I can make a heart. I don't know that I have enough to make a heart, but let's see. So these would be squares, right? And then it goes this way, and then it goes this way. Okay, this is an ugly heart. There's a better way to do it. There. Okay, and then these would be squares, so whatever. Let me just put this in here so you can see. Oh, boom, look, it's a heart. Da, 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 da. There's so much you can do, and I've offered a couple different patterns for you, but definitely I would suggest trying this shape out and just going to town with it, seeing what you can create. Yay! It's raining half square triangles. Hallelujah, it's raining half square triangles. So now you know how to make half square triangles 3 different ways. Try all 3, see which way floats your boat the most, and then ride that one to a full quilt or a pillow or whatever you want to. So if you enjoyed this video, got a laugh or a tip or a trick, make sure to give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Keep it positive, y'all. Mr. Domestic out.